and in between are the cowards and the hypocrites, which are
Good morning and welcome to Open Conversation on Atlantic Television Network. Open Conversation is a network's flagship political platform through which trending political news, events and stories are discussed with stakeholders. Through these conversations, ATN uses political talks about specific issues, party system and actor to explore hope and engender positive impact to the society. Today we'll look at these trending stories. First, Katsina State. 20 local government areas sealed truce with bandits despite fresh attacks. On terrorism, court convicts sentencing Nnamdi Kanu to life imprisonment. And on Christian genocide, SDC faults federal government's weak reaction to killings. Still on genocide, ADC blasts federal government for blaming rising insecurity on Trump. On politics, ADC faction declares David Mark coalition illegal. We'll go on a short break, and when we come back, we'll delve right into the show. Do not go away. Welcome back and thank you for staying with us. Joining me on Open Conversation this morning is Nze, a political analyst, a regular on Open Conversation, and he also prides himself as advocate of the masses. Good morning, Nze, and welcome once again.
Good morning, Laurentia. Good morning, Nigerians. Good morning, Daniel Momo, my good friend.
All right, Nze has already introduced Daniel Momo for us. I also have with me this morning Daniel Momo, a regular on Open Conversation and also a political analyst. Good morning, Daniel,
Good morning.
and welcome.
Good morning, Nigerians.
And then on to the story. 20 Castina local government areas have signed a peace accord with armed groups identified as bandits, even as renewed attacks raise doubts about the truce's effectiveness. The agreement was reached during a meeting involving council chairmen and traditional rulers, though journalists were barred from recording due to security concerns. The armed groups reportedly demanded the release of detained members in exchange for freeing captives. Despite the accord, residents in affected areas remain uneasy following continued attacks. Some community members expressed hope that the deal could restore stability, rebuild livelihoods, and allow for farming activities, while others called for sustained dialogue but strong monitoring committees to prevent misunderstandings and reinforce the fragile agreement. Many citizens, however, remain skeptical, fearing that recurring assaults in local government areas already under peace arrangement undermine confidence in the process. They urged authorities to strengthen security measures and improve communication to reassure communities and ensure lasting peace. I'll start with you, Daniel Momo, on this one. What do you make of this story?
Yes, two things. First is that the purpose of government is to secure lives and properties. How they do that should first not be the citizen concern, but he just wants to have peace. He wants to be able to do his business. But I think that when we begin to see things like this, even though the power in the Constitution grants the president and governors the prerogative of mercy and the power to grant amnesty, I do not think that this type falls into same rank. You remember that in River State, there was a time where, what was this guy's name now? Was it Don Wani? And others were granted amnesty. And what was the amnesty all about? Surrendering of arms. This is not arms surrendering. This is not trying to rehabilitate them. In other words, they are saying that in exchange of peace, give us back our foot soldiers that you have arrested and detained. And so I think for me there will be a bit of conflict here. Who would release or who has the power? Because what you just read out now says local governments. Does a local government chairman, in the Constitution and in all honesty, has that power to release any detained person undergoing criminal or terrorism charges? Do they have the power? Even the governors don't have powers to free anyone who is undergoing terrorism charges. So, in essence, I am looking at the workability of some of these. And again, there are no timelines. It's okay, we have done this, you would never do this again. Why I mentioned that of River State is to have a clear sense of what happened then. And because here was what we call the economic, not that he was killing people, it was an economic sabotage. And that was done. But how do you monitor, for example, what are the KPIs to monitor the effectiveness of this? What if they decide to attack tomorrow? What would happen? So there are no timelines. Unfortunately, again, you said there were no cameras there to actually video or see what was going on. But again, I think that we are treading on a very dangerous line. Would those detained people be released? Who has the power to release them? Is the president being carried along in this? Are the state governments being carried along in some of these things? And so again, when you see things like this happening in Katsina State, what is the one in Kaduna thinking? What is the one in Kano thinking? What is the one in Niger State thinking? He thinks that yes, he also has a right to come to the table and negotiate. And so for me, news like this, it shows a weak state. When I mean state, I mean country. It shows a very weak country that tolerates, or rather we have degenerated to, maybe this is the Stone Age.
All right.
And unfortunately, this is what it is. It doesn't show strength, that a state has strength. Strength in negotiation. Because what happened in River State is that you must, for you to get amnesty, you must surrender. In other words, you will not go back. But this doesn't tell us that this is what is happening. It just give us exchange, and so you can have peace.
All right.
So how long is this peace? There are no KPIs to say, this is the rules of the engagement. So in other words, some people can stand up tomorrow, give themselves another name in Katsina State and start attacking people.
All right, very well. Nze, what do you make of this story? But it's also worthy of note that this is not even the first time, local governments negotiating, communities even negotiating with bandits, as it were, for their lives. I mean, reports has filtered in from the north where communities are paying taxes to these bandits. Communities are paying taxes to Boko Haram and ISWAP and all of that in order to even be allowed to farm, on their own land. What do you make of this story, Nze?
I thank you very much first, but I think we have to look at this from a different perspective. My friend Daniel talked about amnesty, but I'm not looking at it from the angle of amnesty. I see this as government, being in romance, with the bandits. And if one should say categorically from the layman viewpoint and from analyst viewpoint that in the north, bandit is not referred to as terrorism. It is a business that some group of persons are doing, which might involve taking the lives of other citizens and perhaps stopping them from engaging in their lawful businesses, except they settle the supposed bandits, in those areas. It was very surprising to me to hear that. In fact, it was yesterday either yesterday or the day before, I saw in social media where these bandits were coming to the particular place of the negotiation with their motorbikes. They were going like swarm. And, just like they said that news carried that it was not televised, it was not recorded. But, there could be people, while they were driving, who would be recording with their phones and things like that. And these things were posted, and we saw it. So, and if somebody like me could see such things here from Port Harcourt, then how about the DSS? How about the police? How about military intelligence bureau? What happened? That nobody is doing anything? And these people assembled, they came out from their enclave, they came out from the bushes where they hid themselves, and they gathered in a community, in a square, with elected local government chairmen who were elected under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who were sworn in by the authority of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And they will sit together with these people with their arms being brandished, some of them wearing military camouflage, yet discussing. And look at what the news carried this morning, that they were demanding that their men, their foot soldiers who were being held by Nigerian government should be released, for them to be able to release those they have kidnapped. And also remember that sometimes they receive a ransom from those kidnapped victims, and then people will be allowed to go about their lawful businesses, maybe going to farm on things like that, which means the government of Federal Republic of Nigeria is in charge of the urban areas, and government of bandits, government of Boko Haram, government of ISWAP, and the rest of them are in charge of our bushes and rural areas. Now, when you look at such things, you begin to ask, are we really operating the same federal system in Nigeria? Because the truth remains that those in power, especially the APC government, is playing Nigeria hanky-panky. They are not being straightforward with us, because it's like there is a certain law that is obtainable in the north and a certain law that is obtainable in the south. You know, we can't just accept this, that such thing happened. Police has not issued a statement, army has not issued a statement, DSS has not issued a statement, military intelligence has not issued a statement, and yet you are telling me who is in the south to be law-abiding, not to carry arms. It means that they are encouraging people. Nigerian government, under the leadership of Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is encouraging Nigerian youths to pick arms. That is when you can have access to governors, local government chairmen, or some emirs or chiefs of your communities. When you carry gun and hide in the bush, come out, kidnap people, collect ransoms, kill the ones you can kill at will. Because you see that most of these killings that are happening in the north are happening without even our military agencies intercepting them or interrupting them. Let me just interrupting the activities. They just come out and do those things at will, and they return back to their chamber, wherever their chamber could be. So the only thing that justifies a person in Nigeria on the street not to be a terrorist is that you are not carrying gun. Once you carry gun and you are not wearing the military uniform, then you could be considered a terrorist. That is quite unfortunate in a modern state called Nigeria today.
Okay, interestingly, Daniel spoke about amnesty, and you talked about government complicity, correct?
Yeah,
and also the reward system of the government. I will we will not even call it consequence management, but however, reward system in this instance, where it appears that banditry appears to, have some level of rewards, being in the sense that government, according to you, is turning a blind eye. One would say to a large extent, it's worrisome what's going on in Katsina State, where 20 local government areas have to negotiate with bandits openly. And this is not even like I said earlier, it's not even the first or second or third time communities are coming out to negotiate with bandits. And even after the negotiation, it doesn't stop the bandits from attacking them, from killing them. Now, one would say, to a large extent, isn't this a clear pointer to the fact that it appears Nigerians are fast, or they have lost confidence in the ability of the government to protect them. They do not trust that the government have their best interest at heart, because now they are taking it upon themselves to now negotiate their life and their survival, which, for crying out loud, it is even against the fundamental, human rights of Nigerians, the right to life, the right to dignity of life as well, right? Now, which brings me to Benue State massacre, Yelwata massacre, where massacre took place for over 3 to 4 hours. There was no military intervention. There was no intervention by security operatives. And it is not news that massacres, that these killings happen and there is no intervention, because it doesn't make sense to me. There is no intervention. Now, the issue of the Brigadier General that happened, stories came out, that, stories are coming out that he's still alive. I hope that is true. And even during that period, the helicopter was sent and all of that. Now, I am beginning to question, how is it that these operations are happening and the military cannot use, the Navy, the Air Force in this instance, cannot use helicopters? What do we have these things for? Are these helicopters and all whatnot for special purpose of conveying politicians from one point to what exactly are these military equipments for, if it cannot be used? Is this not a pointer to the fact that, Daniel Momo, is this not a pointer to the fact that Nigerians have lost confidence in the ability of the federal government to secure their lives and their properties, that they have taken it upon themselves to negotiate with bandits at this point in time?
Yes, unfortunate things happening, and to an extent, let me start from the firepower using the Air Force. Unfortunately, sovereignty supervises sovereignty. When I mean sovereignty, I mean countries like US and others. When they sell arms to you, there are specific locations that you must write according to agreement that you will use those arms. You can't use in every part of the country. No, that's not how it works, unfortunately. Some of these arms were bought to be used in the Northeast. It is pretty difficult to deploy that arms, for example,
to the Northwest.
To the Northwest. It is against there's something called Lehili law, something. I cannot remember the specific. So once you are buying arms, you are going to list out locations where these things will be used. Unfortunately, why Daniel Bwala was, I think, addressing this RT something from Russia. I felt it was a mistake. He said it, and he was not supposed to have said such a thing because it's a security thing, so that even the terrorists would not know that, should in case when they start firing from the northeast, some of these guys move to the northwest. Unfortunately, if they wear those Tucano helicopters and all of those things they call them, you cannot use in every part of the country.
The question is, in the parts of the country riddled with insecurity, what have they done? So far, the most I've heard of helicopter, whatever, was when military, 2 times, military said they made a mistake and, some persons in Plateau State were wiped out. That was a mistake, isn't it?
No, I'm coming. If we say, what have they done? I'm not talking about government as executive run by Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I'm talking about soldiers. They have done well to the extent of what they have at hand to operate. I have one of my family distance. He told me during the heat of the Boko Haram that for almost like 6 months, he has not slept under a roof. Every day they are in the bush. So sometimes let's not say what did they do. There are people who are giving all to the fight against insurgency. Now, let me take a word from what my colleague here said. Who group who bandit? Who is grouping who terrorists? Because what then is an act of terrorism when you carry arms against a state? So against who are these people carrying arms against? These people are carrying arms against a state. So why is it now difficult for them to be classified as terrorists and be charged on terrorism laws? In other words, what it means, let me tell you, in this group, what it means is that if you arrest a bandit, he's either going to be charged on cattle rustling, criminal. No, if
attempted murder.
Yes, you cannot charge him on because you have not grouped him.
They have not been prescribed.
Yes, you have not grouped him. You see, that's what I'm saying. Okay, who is doing this grouping and how did you get at this grouping? You see, unfortunately, and people have a right to carry bias. If I say, for example, in Edo State, maybe you treat Edo people somehow, I have a right to say, why? Because if an Edo man is doing this, would you charge him for banditry, or would you charge him for terrorism, or would you charge him for criminal acts? So unfortunately, and that's where advantage or disadvantages. If you arrest a bandit today, he will never be charged.
Have you seen a successful prosecution of?
No, when even court cases here, there is no successful prosecution. It's just infinity. You see, the issue for me here is that, and which is very unfortunate, is that if a bandit is arrested today, he will be charged not terrorism because he has not been grouped as an act of terror. And for me, it all boils back to the table of the president. And like I was saying, where I told you I was addressing, and my first point of call is that desperate times require desperate measures. Unfortunately, you see, when you talk about military here today, kidnap here tomorrow, our servicemen are not enough. They are not enough. We must rejig and think of where to go. And for me, one is regional security. Yes, some states might say, oh, we're afraid when you have a governor holding the power of the state police and all of that. We can have regional. For example, you would note that, for example, in South, for example, the crime are similar. The crime committed in South are similar. If you go to the Southeast, the crimes committed in Southeast are similar. So in other words, if you have a regional body of security, they will be able to handle that. Same way, the Southwest is currently under what they call their vigilante called Amotekun. They have done some success in some areas. But I felt that, in all honesty, this does not give me, as a state, that could protect me and I go to sleep.
All right.
If people have to now pay taxes, people have to now pay how to get their people released. And when you were mentioning the NYC stuff, somebody snapped something on that NYC. Probably I'll forward it to you after the program.
I have that. So.
And he was saying that once you are kidnapped.
Yes. NYC has come out to debunk that. However, that bears their logo, it bears their leaflets, it bears. I'm just wondering how they are debunking it.
Okay, they debunked that. They say
yes.
once
However,
on
their website, they will advise you not to travel once it's 6 p.m.
No, but this was that.
They have travel advice from them. That pamphlet,
yes,
they had copy. They have it, but they are denying it, probably because. Well, now, with regards to what you just said about Nigerian military not being enough and that they are doing their best and all of that, Nigeria is the has the fourth largest military power in the entire Africa, not West Africa. Hold on.
Okay.
And according to World Grouping, Nigeria's military might is grouped at 31. Right. Now, Nigeria has been known to lead significant peacekeeping missions and even fought in certain wars that restored peace. Nigeria has done that for Congo, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Gambia, Mali, Sudan, South Sudan, Guinea-Bissau, Cote d'Ivoire, Rwanda, Lebanon, Bosnia and Herzegovina, India and Pakistan, Iran and Iraq, and East Timor. I'm just listing up a few of them. Now, Nigerian military is known and respected worldwide and in Africa as well. However, the same military of the same country that goes to nations that they have not studied their terrain and they are able to intervene and win, so much so that they are also called upon, to also intervene in other countries, appears to be losing the battle in their own land. Now, which brings to question, when Nze talked about the reward system of the government, and you talked about the fact that bandits cannot be arrested and prosecuted on charges of terrorism because they have not been proscribed as a terrorist organization, right? Now, which brings to mind questions that Nigerians should be asking, hard questions that we need to ask the government, the federal government. Why is it, first of all, that the bandits, the killer Fulani herdsmen have not been proscribed? That is number one. How is it, again, that despite everything that has happened, we have not seen the successful prosecution? I mean, this is terrorism that has spanned over a decade, 16 years or more. and we've not heard of a successful prosecution, you know. Instead, what has saddled the news so far from the same Nigerian military, claiming that they are fighting insurgency and these acts of terrorism, is that, oh, so and so number of persons have been arrested, so and so number of persons have laid down their arms, and they have been rehabilitated, and they have been reintegrated into the system, as it were. Which a lot of question comes to mind. Is the government complicit? Why is the federal government unable to do something concrete with regards to this war? Because we are in a guerrilla warfare in the country, like it or yes. The fact that communities are now negotiating with terrorists, for me, is a pointer to the failed security architecture of the country. Why does it have to take a tweet from the President of United States for Nigeria and Nigerian government to begin to think that actually the people that are being killed are human beings and not cows? Probably if cows were killed this way, we would have had more uproar by the federal government than the human beings that are being killed. So I have a lot of questions. I have a lot of things going on in my mind, and it's time to, we need to ask the federal government hard questions. We have the platform to speak, and we need to speak out for people, particularly people who are going through this and their voices are not being heard. Right, Nze, as we move on to the next story.
Thank you very much. Let me go back to the first instances you led. First, the Castina truce with the bandits is not the first, not the 10th, not even the 50th. Over time, we've had chiefdoms, communities, even to the point of state, coming to discuss with these people. They are bandits, they are Boko Haram, they are ISWAP, and whatever name they may give to themselves. And I don't even know who gives them those names. But the question that is ringing in my mind is, which I'm putting up to Nigerians to join me to ask, is, who are these people who are unaliving the lives of Nigerians that are negotiating and discussing and dining and whining with our government? We've seen pictures where Shetima was dining and whining with these people. We've seen pictures where even we've had news where Matawale was, discussing with these people. We've seen all these things and nobody is talking about them. And yet, we say we are in one Nigeria. They're coming down to the government willpower and the military willpower to fight against these people. You see that it is zero. I will say it again, it is a zero. If the military, like what you said, I went to Yewata, I think about 2 weeks ago, in Benue State. And that you see what the way the community, that somebody will say, we don't know what is happening there. Yewata is not in such a topography that someone will say is difficult for us to access. It's just that they are not interested in saving the lives of the people. And you now see that most of the people in the rural areas in Yewata have now come to the major town to take refuge. And nothing is being done either to those who carried those dastardly act or whatsoever. They are still moving about their normal businesses.
And still committing
and they are still committing more. Now look at what happened. We were talking about the KB incidents. Now, someone said that the distance between that place, that school, JSS in KB, and the police post was about 10 kilometers. And the question one we ask, I'm putting this question to parents, I'm putting it to the local government chairman, the Ministry of Education, why do we still have boarding school in the north? Knowing that this is a soft spot for these guys to carry out their stuffs. And
why are the boarding schools not even built up with security?
Why should we even have it?
All right.
That's number one. Number two, why is it that the boarding schools are not well guided? It means that, because if you go to north, you just have to understand how these things happen. There is no how, either a motorcycle or, except if you tell me that those bandits are traveling by spirit, that they are not, there's no how somebody will be traveling 10 kilometers away that cannot be spotted. I'm telling you, if there are mechanisms that are put in place to monitor
Moving
these
in
things,
large numbers.
they will be moving in large. And you tell me, do you know the amount of dust they will raise? Do you know that you can sight them from a far distance, and yet there will be no phone call? Even if there was phone call, like sometime you could hear that there was intelligent gathering that these people might strike at these people, and our law enforcement agencies will fold their hands, and these things will happen, and people will go scot-free. Now we are looking at that coming again. I will say that government has hand in this. Let the government of Bola Tinubu come to say we don't have hand in it. And they have also, most of those Boko Harams they claim have repented. And some of them were integrated in the time of Buhari. Some of them were integrated into the army. And recently I saw a picture where some of them were even trained in Gombe and given how much? 50,000.
They were doing giveaway on TikTok.
Yes, they gave them
50,000 money.
Gave them what's it called, bags of rice and all that, and sew uniform for them and graduate them.
Government,
yes, government doing this
for the bandits.
For the bandits. So the question I'm asking is, what kind of country? What is that plan? What does Nigerian leaders have in mind? What do you know that a terrorist don't repent? Listen, a terrorist don't repent. You can't de-radicalize a radical. Now, you tell me that you bring them and then conscript them into the army, and they will be growing along the ranks. Look at Sheikh Gumi, that is working freely today in Nigeria, and his son is an officer in the army. Last time I watched, you saw where the son was giving him compliment, you know, and the man could say to his son, "You are my good son." He's in the army, and his father is dilly-dallying with the bandits. And when we look at some of these things, we begin to wonder, where is the sincerity in all these things?
All right.
So there is no sincerity. We are just in the hands of God. And I am praying Nigerians. Look at, okay, let me point this. Where the army is saying that they don't have enough manpower. How can you say that? In ECOMOG, Nigerian infantry was rated the best in the whole Africa. Why is it that now we are struggling, looking for foreign powers that will come to fight these guys? That I know that even if you give me the powers to command and hire, within 2, 3, 4 months, we'll be done with all these insurgents in the north. But like what Daniel said, that some of the equipment cannot be used here. When it is procured for this place, you cannot use it for this place. What equipment are you even talking about? All right. Except if you tell me that the bushes in the north are safeguarded, not to be maybe fought upon, but the bandits can be grooming from there to come out to fight Nigerians.
All right. Daniel, quickly.
No, just for the sake of education, where he mentioned that they sew clothes for the bandits, there is something called Operation Safe Corridor. It was never initiated by the Nigerian government. It was initiated by the United States government, and you can browse this after by the United States government and the United Kingdom. They call it Operation Safe Corridor. It's the rehabilitation process. There is a way it is grouped. For example, maybe if Boko Haram raided a community and forced, at a point they were forcing people to join. So once they are arrested, there is a way you can test the finger of someone who had held a rifle before, who had held a gun. So all of this process, all of these persons go through that process, and they are separated. It is initiated by the U.S. government. It's called Operation Safe Corridor. It was never initiated by the Nigerian government. But the Nigerian government is the one who go through the processes, separate these boys, the ones who are forced into it, and then for training. But I'm not aware that any of them was rehabilitated and joined the Nigerian military. Probably, maybe as an analyst, I would want to. But there's something called Operation Safe Corridor. The
Operation Safe Corridor right now, from what I'm seeing here, is a non-kinetic multi-agency program established by the Nigerian federal government in 2016 to de-radicalize, rehabilitate, and reintegrate repentant Boko Haram and ISWAP insurgents into society. It is a crucial part of Nigeria's counter-terrorism strategy, operating alongside ongoing military operations. So
it is sponsored by the United States government. I'm live on here.
Now, The thing here is this. As far as we are concerned, to a large extent anyway, let me not say as we are concerned, in Nigeria right now, whether it is called Operation Safe Corridor.
No, I'm only just saying for the sake of education now, there's something called Operation Safe Corridor.
That's like we have said, probably because we didn't mention the Operation Safe Corridor. I've mentioned it here that there have been rehabilitation by the government through the military. I've said it here severally. Now, the thing here at the end of the day is the fact that amnesty, however it is coined, amnesty is being given to terrorists who the federal government have refused to proscribe as terrorists. Bandits are not proscribed. I stand to be corrected. Killer Fulani herdsmen are not proscribed as terrorists. And to date, I am yet to hear of a successful prosecution of a group of persons who have been arrested in the act of whatever military operation or fights, against them. Now, Operation Safe Corridor is for repentance in quotes, repentant Boko Haram ISWAP members, as it were, and then they are integrated and only in Nigeria. Now, moving forward, Federal High Court in Abuja has convicted the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, for terrorism after a decade-long legal battle. Justice James Omotosho delivered the judgment on Thursday, ruling that evidence presented clearly showed Nnamdi Kanu committed acts of terrorism through his broadcast and directives. The conviction follows his 2015 arrest, 2021 rearrest in Kenya, and years of contested trials. During the proceedings, Kanu protested the court's jurisdiction and demanded to be shown the specific law he breached, leading to his forceful removal from the courtroom for what the judge described as unruly behavior. Despite his objections and pleas of not guilty, the court held that his sit-at-home orders in the southeast and repeated broadcasts encouraging attacks on security agencies amounted to preparatory and executed acts of terrorism. Justice Omotosho emphasized that Kanu's rhetoric incited violence, restricted citizens' movement, and resulted in the loss of lives, stressing that the IPOB leader showed no remorse throughout the trial. The court found him guilty on all 7 counts, noting that his conduct had far-reaching consequences on the communities in the southeast. While prosecution sought the maximum penalty, that is death sentence, by the way, the judge opted for life imprisonment instead of a death sentence, citing global shifts away from capital punishment. Kanu's conviction comes months after another separatist figure, Simon Ekpa, was jailed in Finland for inciting violence in Nigeria, and his legal team has already signaled their intention to appeal. Nze, you've been very vocal about the incarceration and the trial of Nnamdi Kanu, and you followed it closely over the years. Now, we've come to a head. Nnamdi Kanu has been sentenced to life imprisonment for terrorism. What is your take on the judgments and the entire proceedings yesterday in court?
First and foremost, thank you very much for this. Let me clap for the shameless Justice James Omotosho.
Using the word shameless, the language.
I am clapping, I'm giving him applause. Whether you call it sarcastic or whatsoever, I'm coming. He said that the judgment amounted to maximum punishment, which was death. But him, in his magnanimity, gave him life sentence. Now let us come back to the reality. Let me state categorically, frontally, that first, the judgment of yesterday by Justice James Omotosho first was a sentencing and life imprisonment of Igbo voice. It is a life imprisonment of Igbo conscience. And it is a life imprisonment of Igbo identity in Nigeria. I sat back to watch this because you can't tell me that something is obtainable here and not obtainable here. That is why I use the word I use, which I know that a lot of people say, why will you use that for honorable justice and all that and all that. First, Why is Nnamdi Kanu accused of terrorism? And the bandits that are killing and still killing and kidnapping and collecting ransoms are not terrorists. I said something somewhere in one of the media that in 2015, when Muhammad Buhari came up as president of Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Fulani herdsmen were on rampage. And their intention was to overrun southeast, south, and southwest. And now, it was this man Nnamdi Kanu from his hideout that was giving signals. When these men will enter the bush, Nnamdi Kanu will say, no, they are here, and the community will guide themselves. They are here, just doing like what Elisha in the Bible did against the Syrian armies. Immediately, this Muhammadu Buhari, a Fulani man, proscribed IPOB and ESN as terrorists. But not the Fulani Marooders, not the Fulani blood-sucking others who were killed. That in the time of operation of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, operating in Biafra when he was free, that we had a Sunday Igboho who was operating in the southwest. Remember that we had that. Where is Sunday Igboho today? Which court in Nigeria tried Sunday Igboho? Do you remember that we have a man called the president of Miyetti Allah, who we also saw gathered his people and was giving them military training to fight against Nigeria. We all saw it. And Nigerian government has not apprehended that man. He's still working freely on the soil of Nigeria. And everybody is shouting, Nnamdi Kanu did this, Nnamdi Kanu did that. And they're making it look as if in the southeast there is higher level of crime than the northeast, than the north central, than the northwest. We are in the southeast. How many mosques have been burnt? How many churches have been burnt? How many times have a school been invaded and students scattered away into the bush? That's the question everybody should ask. And this man, you call him a terrorist. And Justice James Omotosho is expecting applause. Let me just say this. Do you know that Eyinaya Baribe said that this judgment was expected because it is like it has been predetermined? Sometime towards ending of last month and the early this month, we saw a post that Omotosho had been promised of certain gifts here and there. We saw a post.
Don't make statements.
I can still bring the post out. So if it is not right, let them go and arrest whoever made that post. And the two things that were stapled in that thing was either sentencing to life, to life imprisonment or death penalty. And finally, he has given the life imprisonment. I felt so bad when I listened to some of Nigerian politicians of Igbo extraction saying that we're now waiting for political whatever to sort it out. Perhaps the president coming to declare amnesty. It is not proper. The man you have jailed stood for the punishment, persecution that is being meted against his people. Look at the way, okay, even this same judgment is part of that punishment. Because until you punish the president of Mietiala, until you punish Boko Haram, until you punish ISWAP, until you punish bandits, and the rest of the criminal gangs that are operating in the north, if not, the judgment of Nnamdi Kanu is partial and one-sided. You can't tell me that Sunday Igboho is walking out free. Mietiala is walking out free. Bandits are coming to the community to buy and sell. And the local government chairmen are gathering to negotiate with them. How many times has any human being gathered to negotiate with ESN? I'm not encouraging that. In as much as I stand against the criminalities that are being carried out in the southeast, Igbos have this sanctity for blood. We don't shed blood anyhow.
All right.
In as much as I don't in any way agree with anybody carrying arms. Yes, if we are agitating for self-reliance, this thing, we can still do that on papers. We can do it on the news. We can do it elsewhere and not carrying arms.
All right.
I don't agree with anybody lifting arms against the state. But we have people who have lifted arms and nothing has been done to them, and we are bringing this. So I believe that Igbo conscience have been sentenced into life imprisonment.
All right.
I believe that Igbo identity has been sentenced and Igbo voice have been sentenced. I expect those politicians, both in the Senate, in the House of Reps, the governors, the political office holders, across, and the traditional leaders across Igbo land to rise up. In fact, not just southeast, south, south.
Right.
To rise up to this and say, no, it is not good. This injustice meted on Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is injustice meted to us all.
All right, very well. Daniel, what is your take on the judgment on Nnamdi Kanu?
Yes, first of all, whether to in a capital punishment, whether to pass a death sentence or judge has a right. There was this case of what's her name now? This actress. She's in this Yoruba category. She took drugs. She was arrested by NDLEA, and after that arrest, she came before the judge, and the judge said that he just got back from Mecca and that he will be lenient on her. So what I'm trying to say is that a judge has some discretion on how to give certain judgment. Having said that, I think that Nnamdi Kanu is facing trial on his own and as the leader of IPOB. It is not all Igbos who are IPOB. Igbos are never on trial whatsoever. Now, why some of us question certain bases of the nation is to say that let the same brush that go from the south should go to the west, should go to the north, should go to the east. Once you begin to have that, people have a right to their own bias. This thing started in 2015, 10 years after. This is where we are. And in all of this, Kanu himself had showed some level force that he didn't trust. It was Binta Nyako. She said he has lost trust in Binta Nyako and all. And Binta Nyako had to excuse herself. And Omotosho was brought on stage. He hired Kanu Agabi, son, Mike Ezekome, son, Ikpeazu, son, Etiaba, son, all as his legal team. And for me, where it now mattered most, you ask that you do not want their family. And unfortunately, you started listing some very funny characters, like Governor of Lagos State as a witness. What has Governor of Lagos State got to do with what happened with IPOB? And people even have immunity that God cannot even summon them. Okay, let's see what they will come to say. On that day, you requested to the judge that you do not want, you are dropping all of the witnesses that are part of what the wanted to. So again, you gave room for me. You gave room to the prosecuting team to go ahead because there was clearly no defense. If a case that you were given life imprisonment, there was some defense. Kanu Agabi entered into your team. In fact, his ability to want to take over was that you must first apologize to the judge, you must apologize to the prosecuting team. Look at what he displayed yesterday in court. And so for me, I think no ethnic thing is on trial. Never.
All right.
I have had friends. No, I'm coming now.
Okay.
You gave enough time. Let me just
go ahead.
I'm just building. Now, having said that, I think that when Simon Ekpa was jailed in Finland, nobody said Igbo was on trial. But now, nobody said Igbo was on trial. But I think that I expected the person of Kanu to understand certain intricacies in Nigeria. That one, in all honesty, I do not believe, as a person, this is my personal opinion. And I have advocated for it at every stages that I have the privilege to speak. That I think that people who agitated for independent of a particular place, it should not be people you jail. I do not buy into it. People can. It's a constitutional right. But once they begin to take arms against a state, ESN took arms against a state. It was published, videos showing, what's his name now? Simon Ekpa showed some of those things, how soldiers were killed and all. And I think that at that point, Kanu should have separated himself from this man. I am not into these agitations, but unfortunately, he started saying it when he was in DSS detention. And I think that at that point, it was very late. Again, is that judgment of yesterday harsh? For me as Daniel, as an individual, absolutely. Do we need to have such judgment? Not in any way. But I think that for me, no ethnic group in Nigeria is on trial. It is the IPOB leader who was on trial yesterday. And unfortunately, it is not all Igbos who are IPOB. Same way, it is not all IPOBs that are Igbo. No, that's not true. So for me, I think that, let's see what the Court of Appeal will say, because they said they are appealing it. And at the end of the day, the same legal team you said you are dropping, you now took them up as a consultant in the last day of court judgment. So I think, to me, in all honesty, I think as a nation, there are certain things we can revisit. This judgment is one of them.
All right.
And lastly, it will affect him, unfortunately, because as a British citizen, it is said that those people who naturalized and became British citizens, if they are convicted of any terrorism charges around the world, they automatically loses that British citizenship. And unfortunately, I hope that there could be a political solution to remove that terrorism charges, or rather, a verdict on him, and allow him go free. I do not believe our prisons do not need such people. They can talk, they can do anything. I think the political class needed to do something.
Okay, very well. There's 1 minute, please.
Yeah, I think looking at what happened there in the trial of Nnamdi Kanu, we know that an individual is an individual, and sometimes when an individual carries out his activities to an extent, he can own up to it. But why did I come up with this point that the Igbo nation is on trial under Justice James Omotosho and Tinubu government? Is because what is accused of this fellow also had to connect with what happened to the other fellow. The Tinubu's kinsman is walking free. the Fulani man is walking free and the Igbo man is going in for it. So that is the point where I'm coming. It's not all about Nnamdi Kanu. If it is about Nnamdi Kanu, one will say that he's an individual and he can face whatever stuff. But look at the way the Igbos are being handled in Nigeria. You discover that you have a case and you go to police station with somebody from another ethnic group and that person is let go. But when it has to do with these people, you say catch them and kill them. We don't and can never allow such in our place. So let the government of Nigeria and those who are either working with them as appointees or elected officials talk with Mr. President and let something be done. And I believe that in the appeal court, let appeal court do the needful and quash the judgment of James Omotosho so that Nigeria can move forward as one Nigeria.
All right, very well. I wish we have more time, but sadly we are out of time. But before I call it a day for this program, it's very important that I make this known. The judgment on Nnamdi Kanu, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, one would say to a large extent is a very sad one. It's a very sad one because the reason for all these things stemmed from one thing. They started way before Nnamdi Kanu. It was the reason that led to Biafran War. And the reason that after the Biafran War, every Igbo person received less than how many pounds? 40 pounds. 2 pounds to start life afresh. Igbos lost their properties. Igbos lost investments, lost a lot of things, and started life with nothing. And years down the line, cries of marginalization have continued. And the federal government has not in any way tried to even engage this ethnicity for 1 minute to understand what these cries are about. Niger Delta started their own agitation. There was economic sabotage. There were kidnaps of white men and other people working in the oil and gas industry. And guess what? There was amnesty. And there's some people were sent abroad. Monies were given. In fact, part of the figureheads of that particular amnesty, of that particular agitation in Niger Delta, I am saying it on national television. The reward system and the preferential treatment and amnesia and selective treatment of certain ethnic group by the federal government. Part of the people, or 1 or 2 persons, in fact, one person notably, that was one of the arrowheads of that agitation, had his own military, if I may use the word, had his own boys on ground, currently is guarding the waterways of Nigeria with the same people armed. Make it make sense to me. Make it make sense to me. Make it make sense to me. There was amnesty given to these people. Now we have bandits currently killing, and the killings by these bandits, what are they exactly agitating for? What is the agitation of the bandits? What is the agitation of the Killer Fulani headsmen? What is the agitation of Boko Haram? What is the agitation of ISWAP? Yet, the government started Operation Safe Corridor to rehabilitate and reintegrate them. And up until now, we are yet to hear of certain successful prosecutions. These people are operating in broad daylight. They go on TikTok and do live. They flaunt ill-gotten ransom money, and the government somehow cannot clamp down on these people. Yet a man is pushing. Yes, I would not say that I support violence or certain orthodox methods that were employed along the line. But this is a cry of marginalization from a certain group of people in the country. And at the end of the day, it's also worthy of note that in October 2022, an appeal court in Abuja dropped all charges against Nnamdi Kanu, and federal government still took it up. And it's also worthy of note that probably Nigerians have forgotten that when this issue started in 2022, the IPOB was not a terrorist organization. In fact, if you follow the sequence of the court hearings and judgments and all of that and the appeal, it was after Nnamdi Kanu's charges were dropped that the government proscribed IPOB as a terrorist organization and then started a fresh charge against Nnamdi Kanu for terrorism. Nigerians can verify this information. I mean, it's out there. It did not start as terrorism. He was discharged and acquitted in 2022. An appeal court, a high court discharged him, an appeal court of, I think, an appeal court discharged him in October 2022. And after that, he was not even released to start with. And then, federal government prescribed the IPOB, and that was how he started standing trial for terrorism. It did not start as terrorism from get-go. And here we are at this moment. The question is, at this very sensitive time of the country, is this the right way to go? Considering that the Igbos are still hurting and they feel their voices are not being heard. Should we look at the formation of the most sensitive positions in this country and how it has gone to a certain religion and group of persons? Are these things not real? The question I am asking is, the agitations of marginalization, are they not real? The Southeast also contributes to the economy of this country. Some Southeast states are part of the NDDC states, oil-producing states in Nigeria. And it's only fair and just that the pains of Biafra war, that the pains that the Igbos have carried, even up until now, is addressed. Nigeria needs healing. And until we come to a table of negotiation where truth is being told, and then and only then can healing start. What I will say finally is this. I urge the federal government to go for political solution to this matter of Nnamdi Kanu. It is not to the benefit of the Igbos. It is definitely not to the benefit of Nigeria as a government. Sheikh Gumi is walking free. The same man who is saying that the government should employ bandits to guard our forests. Bandits that are killing people. He's openly negotiating and he's walking free. A lot is left on the table. A lot of questions, a lot of things are begging for answers. Like I said, a word is enough for the wise. We'll call it a day at this point. I thank everyone, all our viewers. Thank you, Nze. Thank you, Daniel Momo, for coming on Open Conversation. We'll do this same time tomorrow. Bye for now.
To condemn this act and call for the immediate release of this minister in the Temple of God.